What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video. I'm here with a banger of a video. I very rarely use that word, but if that's the case, then it's got to be something special. I do think this video will be special. It is time for another wrestling fantasy book. We keep pushing these out there because AEW keeps adding more and more pay-per-view events. That's not going to get any complaints out of me. So we're here for how I would book AEW Full Gear 2023, taking place November 18th at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles, California. I got the Clippers hat on for the occasion. I know that the Lakers used to play at the Forum, but guess what? I'm not a big Lakers fan. I like the Clippers more than the Lakers, like guaranteed. So before we get into how I would book this event, I always go through a bit of rules just so like questions that might be asked I could possibly answer them before they're asked. So I only use people on the AEW roster. I know some people, when they book AEW related things, they like to add people that aren't on the roster. I personally just don't do that, and I will go over some of the notable names on the AEW roster I don't have involved on this card because it is difficult to book every single name, especially the big names in the company, on a show. But I do have this as a 13-match card. So notable names that are missing. First, Adam Cole. He's injured. Don't know when he'll be back. He might appear, but I think it'd be way too soon for him to be competing. Sting, Darby Allin, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. I have them involved in a matchup later on. There's definitely a world where this could be some type of tag team match, but I would not prefer to see that. Mike Santana, Ortiz, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Miro. All four are involved in their own little storyline. In the case of Santana and Ortiz, it hasn't really even started and picked up yet. In the case of Hobbs and Miro, I sometimes forget about it. So I feel these are storylines that could be more involved on the TV before they make a pay-per-view. Hikaru Shida and Saraya. If you watch, anytime I talk about AEW, I'm not the biggest fan of the women's division. I just feel that there's not little to no direction with it. I'm not the biggest fan of Saraya being the champion. But as of right now, for next week's Dynamite, these two are supposed to be competing in a championship matchup. So I felt I didn't know where the hell the women's title is going to be at this time and point. So let's see what happens then. And the last but not least, Wardlow. I have no clue where he's at. In the little note section, I wrote MIA. It'd be a good time for him to return, but I don't know why he's out, why we haven't seen him, so we'll see when that happens. So now it's time to get into this 13-match card. These first 3 matches are for the 0-hour buy-in pre-show. And if you watch my channel, please subscribe. Every Friday, I have ROH TV reviews. And I've always kind of had the suggestion in the back of my mind, and I think that this time around, it lined up perfectly. But for the 0-hour, the 3 matches that kick off the show are all Ring of Honor related. All are involved for the Ring of Honor championships. The first one, for the Ring of Honor World Championship, Eddie Kingston versus Brian Cage. Eddie Kingston was just recently crowned the ROH World Champion. He knows that he's got to continue the lineage and be a good champion, so he's going to consistently defend it. He just did that at Wrestle Dream, which, by the way, I did not know that was for both of his championships. I thought it was just for the ROH World title, so I apologize for that in my predictions video, because I definitely just said for the ROH World title. In the case of Brian Cage, in Ring of Honor competition, he's undefeated. It's definitely on a long-ass winning streak, and there's no, like, ranking system in ROH. There was one. There's probably no way that Brian Cage isn't at the very top, and he just recently lost his 6-man tag team title, so I'd imagine it'd be some time to target some singles gold. So the first matchup, ROH World Championship, Eddie Kingston versus Brian Cage. Next, for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship, Athena versus Mercedes Martinez. We're almost at a year with Athena holding this championship because she won a final battle last year, and the person she defeated to win that championship was Mercedes Martinez, who has been out a majority of this year with injury, but just recently returned. She's been on a winning streak herself. I'm not including Wrestle Dream in Ring of Honor competition, and anytime that she has a promo segment, she always mentions, yeah, I never got my rematch, and I feel that this would be a fitting time to get the rematch involved. And then last but not least, a massive matchup for the Ring of Honor Television Championship. Samoa Joe versus Keith Lee. Keith Lee in AEW kind of is just, he appears randomly and he'll have a one-on-one matchup. It's definitely not the greatest. But most recently, he's been kind of brought up, talk about Shane Taylor and how they used to be a tag team in Ring of Honor. And while Keith Lee hasn't shown up on ROH television, I wouldn't mind that. He's kind of like, again, he's leaning back to his ROH history. And the last time that Samoa Joe defended the ROH Television Championship was against Shane Taylor. I just don't think there's many people that would complain about a Samoa Joe Keith Lee matchup because it'd be massive. So there's like, the story there is like, it's just too meat. I don't like talking about this all meat and all that crap and whatnot, but they fit in that category, and I think they would deliver a great matchup. So now we're on to the main card. 10 matchups. The first one, Fatal 4-Way, #1 contenders match. Hangman Adam Page versus Andrade versus Claudio Castagnoli versus Ricky Starks. Traditionally, at Full Gear, since 2020, so not including 2019, 2020, 21, 22, there's been a #1 contenders tournament that has concluded at Full Gear. 2022 is kind of the weird one because like Ricky Starks is posted in and into the next Dynamite. I digress. So each year we've kind of had this tournament taking place. But most recently, we've had a crap ton of tournaments in AEW. And while I don't mind them, all of them being like #1 contenders tournaments kind of just like defeats the purpose, I feel. Because, like I said, we had the Blind Eliminator tournament, we had the Owen Hart Cup twice, because men's and women's. But like the most recent tournament we've had in AEW was the #1 contenders for Grand Slam. And I don't, like I said, they're kind of way too similar, so I changed it up a bit. I set up a Fatal 4-Way match, but I had qualifying matches to do it. So I had Hangman Page versus Roosh, which I think would be, out of these 4 matchups I had set up, probably the one I would be the most excited for. Claudio Castagnoli versus Roderick Strong. Andrade versus Wheeler Yuta. And Absolute Ricky Starks versus Daniel Garcia, setting up the #1 contenders match, Fatal 4-Way, Hangman Page, Andrade, Claudio Castagnoli, Ricky Starks, with the winner getting a championship match at Winter is Coming or the December pay-per-view. Neither have been announced at this moment, so that's why I mentioned both. I will say, little side note, I'm pretty sure, I didn't like completely check it, I'm pretty sure each time that those tournaments took place, there were no former world champions. So Hangman Page, I will admit, I originally excluded him from this because he's obviously a former world champion, and there's a great chance that his rivalry with Swerve Strickland continues. In my eyes, I did not go that way. I just don't know what the hell to do with Hangman Page, which is kind of like was the direction of this Swerve Strickland feud. Like, Hangman's like, what are you doing, like, and whatnot. So I will admit, but I feel Hangman's too big of a name not to have on this card, so that's why he is involved in this. Next matchup, a trios matchup. The House of Black versus the Hardy Boys and Pentagon Jr. Now, House of Black we've not seen in trios action or all together since losing the trios championships at All In. The Hardy Boys, who are a historic tag team, are on a massive losing streak. Pentagon Jr. is a great competitor, but he has not won the big time matchups recently because he was involved in the tournament. I feel he had another match that he lost that was like somewhat big, but it's neglecting out of my mind. But I feel the House of Black need to get momentum going again, and I want to see them back. And I'd love to see them against the Hardy Boys because the Hardy Boys, like, their story right now is they're just losing matchups. Let's get them in a storyline. Now, if you watch my Wrestle Dream fantasy booking, I suggested Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews versus the Young Bucks. So in this case, I could like swap that up here and do Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews versus the Hardy Boys. But I feel that Brody King and Penta are too big of names that I want involved. They're two of my favorite wrestlers to watch, so I want them involved in this. And or something else. I know that the Hardy Boys team with Brothers A. I want Pentagon involved in this. So that is kind of the direction I went with this trios matchup. Now we have another tag team matchup. Orange Cassidy and Hook versus Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. I've kind of suggested it several times, but I would love to see Danielson and Moxley be a full-time tag team. They never had a tag team title match. I know last year they teamed a lot, but never had a tag team title match. and Moxley are. Let's go back to the storyline for this. Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley both recently lost the International Championship. In the case of Moxley, it probably was not planned, but we'll get to that later. And neither have yet to go back after the championship. And I still feel there's not really unfinished business, but I feel that the fans were okay with seeing Cassidy and Moxley, and they would want to see more. The main story that I want here is Orange Cassidy versus Bryan Danielson. Another story that Bryan Danielson is telling now is that he's on this Final Countdown tour for this next year. He's going balls to the wall, crazy. But the main thing that I want out of this is Danielson versus Orange Cassidy. And I also wouldn't mind seeing Hook versus Jon Moxley. So we got two sets of singles matches that I feel could collide and make the best of both worlds and make a tag team match out of it. So there we are with that. So, and also, like I said, I want to see Danielson and Moxley team some more. But I'll also say this. I don't think Danielson or Moxley could be put into a program or matchup where I would not be entertained or not care. Next matchup. This I will take the L on. I am a big goof, and I will go on a small tangent about it. Elimination tag match. Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho versus Konosuke Takeshita and Sammy Guevara. Now, the big goof is I write this stuff. I had this planned yesterday. I wrote this stuff down yesterday. I haven't wrote in pen. I'm too lazy to change it, and you can't erase pen. But I looked on AEW's page, and I just realized, oh my God, this matchup is taking place on Dynamite. This is the exact matchup, besides the stipulation I put. But I had already planned this big tangent. I don't know why the hell Kenny Omega's teaming with Chris Jericho. He has a tag team partner in Kota Ibushi. I know Kota Ibushi is not full-time in AEW, but we've seen him a handful of times. That's his tag partner. They have a tag team name, Golden Lovers. I know you can't see it right here because of lighting. This is a Golden Lovers autograph poster. Let them team more. But the main thing is, I just want to see Kenny Omega in singles action. The beginning of the year, when we were getting the matches with him versus Vikingo and him versus Jeff Cobb, when Kenny Omega was IWGP US champion, I love that. But it's just kind of like, and he had that great match with Moxley in the steel cage. But it's just like, it kind of feels Omega's being forced into these tag matchups. But I do like when stories are finished, and I feel in the case of these four, the story's not finished, and I'm finishing it here. Omega and Jericho have yet to get one up on the Don Callis family, and I feel they'd look like massive losers if they never had that happen, and I might just look like a big idiot, and this might wrap up on Dynamite. So I added the stipulation just to differentiate the match, but hopefully come November 18th, the story is over and Kenny Omega can move on. And I feel that the tag team with him and Jericho are forced, especially because they have a tag team name, the Golden Jets, I believe it is called. I just want Kenny Omega in singles competition, but I also like when stories are finished. And so hopefully that story's finished there. Now we have a couple matchups left, and they all involve championships. The first one for the TBS Championship, Chris Statlander versus Willow Nightingale. Earlier, I was talking about how the women's division right now kind of feels it has no direction, but I will thank Chris Statlander for having a great TBS title reign. All of her matchups have been very good, even a little bit better than good sometimes. But I was on the AEW roster page. She's kind of already faced everybody. Britt, Julia Hart. I don't know why I started naming names because I don't want to forget somebody. Ruby Soho. Jade Cargill. Willow Nightingale. We have not gotten that matchup. And I did suggest a version of this match, last match, or at Wrestle Dream. But I feel these are two fan favorites that would deliver a great match. And like I said, Chris Statlander could be handed anything and make it something good. So I will thank Chris Statlander for having a great TBS title reign and making the women's division a bit elevated. Next, for the Trios Championship, the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass Billy Gunn versus the Guns and Juice Robinson. Now, earlier, I was saying, I like when stories are finished and wrapped up. In the case of the Acclaimed and the Guns, it's kind of an on-again, off-again tale, where 2 years ago, or a year ago, they were all fine and dandy good, and then the Guns broke away and turned on their Daddy Ass, and then Daddy Ass stuck with the Acclaimed, and then earlier this year, the Guns beat the Acclaimed for the Tag Team Championships, which I feel was very forgotten. And I know they've had two matchups. They had the matchup for the tag team titles, and then they had the matchup last year, the dumpster match. The Acclaimed won that. The Guns won the tag team title match. So we never have had that third matchup, I believe. Don't put me on the record with that. But I do feel there's a bit, like I said, there's history there, unfinished history that hopefully could be finished here. And the inclusion of Juice Robinson makes it more silly, and I feel that everybody would get a good laugh out of this. And also, I feel it is about time that the Bullet Club Gold add gold to their group. It's literally in the name. Add some to it. Next, for the tag team titles in a tornado tag match, FTR versus the Young Bucks. The theme here is unfinished business. So we had the trilogy between FTR and the Young Bucks. FTR technically won that 2-1. They won a Dynamite tag team matchup last year. It was a good matchup. And the match at All In. The Young Bucks won at Full Gear in 2020. So it's 2-1. But after the All In matchup, the Young Bucks didn't want anything to do with FTR. They're like, just leave us alone. We ain't happy. Then they had the random matchup take place at All Out, the 8-man tag. And then just now at Wrestle Dream, the Young Bucks just won a tag team title shot. I believe it was like specifically said anytime that they want, but I might have overlooked that. But I think they would more than likely want that in their hometown area because they're from Rancho Cucamonga, California. Full Gear is in Los Angeles, California. It's kind of close. And like I said, at some point, we're going to get this matchup. I'm kind of not happiest that it's like so close to their most recent matchup. But the Young Bucks are the number one contenders. FTR and Young Bucks, I feel it would be very difficult for them to have a bad matchup. But I put the tornado tag stipulation on it to make it a bit different. Next matchup for the International Championship, Rey Fenix versus Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland is on fire right now, having a victory against Hangman Page at Wrestle Dream. Every time that he comes out, he gets a big ovation. Not just because of Prince Nana swerving. I would go Full Gear with that, but, I ain't doing that yet. But Swerve Strickland has star power. And earlier this year, a lot of people wanted to see him win the International Championship from Orange Cassidy, but Orange Cassidy just kept winning. And I love Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix definitely has the ability to have a great international title reign, but it just kind of feels like it wasn't planned. And I'm mainly just saying that because he didn't even have an international title match at Wrestle Dream. And I feel that we have enough time from now to Full Gear for me to eat my words and him have a great title reign and have great matchups. I know he's got a matchup set with Nick Jackson, but I feel that Swerve Strickland has a lot of momentum right now and is deserving of a championship because it would acknowledge the momentum that he has right now. Next matchup for the TNT Championship, Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland. The biggest thing to happen at Wrestle Dream was the AEW debut of Adam Copeland. Now, I was going to wait till Shooting the Breeze to talk about this, but I feel it's probably a better time to talk about it now. I know there's a big divide on Adam Copeland / Edge being in AEW, and I understand it, but I'm not going to jump into it just because it feels unnecessary. I have complaints about the debut, but it's just me being an asshole and overreacting. The main complaint that I have was, I did not like him, the beginning of it, you think you knew him. I just thought that was so freaking corny. And I was also mad because everybody was talking about in the months and months that this has been rumored. He's going to come out to Never Gonna Stop Me. He's going to come out with the Metal Ingus. I am one of those people that liked when he came out to Never Gonna Stop Me. I really wanted that to happen. And that didn't happen. It kind of bummed me a little bit, but it didn't make me completely hate the debut. Now, again, the main reason people hate the debut is because he left WWE. I'm not getting into that crap. That, y'all can solve that on your own. But another thing, like I said, it's just me overreacting, me overthinking. Nick Wayne turned on Darby Allin. Understandable, because Nick Wayne ain't feeling Darby Allin. Because AR Fox beat the crap out of Nick Wayne, and then Darby Allin's like, yeah, I'm cool with AR Fox. After he'd already turned on both of them. And then in the case of Nick Wayne, he turned on. So the main thing I'm getting at is, Nick Wayne got his ass beat by Luchasaurus and has been harassed by Christian Cage for weeks. And unless it's some plan, haha, again, we'll see later on if what I'm saying now is just irrelevant. But it's just twice Darby Allin's been made to look like an idiot because AR Fox turned on him. Then he was like, okay, we cool. Also, where the hell's AR Fox? And now, Nick Wayne turned on him after getting his ass beat. And then Adam Copeland, and again, this is just me overreacted, hypothetically, had been there, like, ready to come out and whatnot. And he just waited and waited and waited for the ass beating to continue for his come out. And then Darby Allin, the show ends with Darby and Adam shaking hands. I was just like, what the hell? Like, you don't know this man. Or you think you knew him. There's a pun. There's a perfect pun there. Thank you. Now, Adam debuted, and you shaking hands with him. You do not know him. And the things that we do know him, he's great friends with Christian Cage, the guy that you're beefing with. So, and if you notice, Adam did not hit Christian. He hit Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne. So, the main story, like I said, I don't have Sting, Darby, Luchasaurus, Nick Wayne involved in this. I know at some point we'll probably get a 6-man tag out of this. It makes too much sense, but I don't think it's pay-per-view worthy. But the story here is that Christian Cage is obsessed with this TNT championship, and he's not himself. You know, the Snickers me is like, you're not you when you're hungry. And Adam Copeland / Edge, I hate that I have to call him that. I want to call him Edge so badly. It's like, hey, this ain't you. We need to get this championship away from you. And the only person that's probably good enough to beat Christian Cage for this championship is Adam Copeland. And again, I feel a lot of people want to see them team up. That is understandable, but we're more likely going to see them facing each other before they team up. Now we get to the main event. The AEW World Championship, MJF versus Jay White. The go home to Wrestle Dream. We saw these two go head-to-head on the microphone. And I think this is a good matchup. I really enjoy this matchup. I use the word momentum a lot. Jay White is a big star. And I'm finally glad that they're like actually doing something with him and it involving a championship. And I feel an important note is that Jay White waited till Adam Cole left and MJF was by himself to come out and to confront MJF. But the whole big story with this, and again, we got 40-ish days before this event takes place, so something might happen with this. I feel the big story is who the hell attacked Jay White, because MJF is denying that he had anything involved in that attack on Jay White. So I feel the story for this matchup will be based on that, and I think it would be a great end to the pay-per-view if the people who attacked Jay White are revealed at the very end of the show. Now, I'm not going to speculate. I know this is fantasy booking, and I think a lot of people have kind of like put evidence together, just like frame-wise, and so I ain't getting to that. But my suggestion is to end this pay-per-view, have the people that attack Jay White reveal themselves, and hopefully don't let it be a freaking dud. But MJF, Jay White, a big-time matchup, and it's kind of like we've already seen the tease of this matchup, so that's why I suggested it. And also, I will say this. I think either person could win that matchup. I've always thought, and we're like literally 40 days away from it happening, I was like, MJF's going to have a year-long title reign because the whole story with MJF is that he's wanting to leave the Bidding War 2024 and the tease of him leaving with the championship. Personally, I think he's staying. That's a subject for another video. But I was like, if he was to lose it, the first date I guess it would be Full Gear next year. And like I said, we're almost there. And like I said, Bullet Club Gold, I'd love to see them have some gold. And Jay White, I think, is definitely world title worthy. So it's definitely a matchup. My favorite matchups is like the matchups you have no clue who the hell is going to win. I think that the company could build that match to do that. So those are the matchups I suggested. Hopefully you enjoyed it and understood it all. I should have another fantasy book next week for WWE this time around. And like I said, hopefully nothing I said becomes extremely outdated by the time that this is uploaded. So hopefully everybody stays safe. Watch the videos that are coming up. Please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.